So the day before we had our Las Vegas lecture, I was actually flown out to LA to film for a national magic television program. It was really exciting and a massive opportunity for me. I flew out to LA, I filmed for this show, but while I was filming, I went and I tried to work out in the gym at the hotel, and I couldn't do it. You know, I felt fatigue, I felt sick. I slept pretty well, and then I got up the next day to film for the show, and I felt okay, but a little under the weather, and I got my sets done and everything was filmed, and it looks like they'll probably even use them, which is pretty cool. But then as soon as I got back to Las Vegas, I felt terrible. Before we left, there was a bunch of stuff I wanted to get done around the house, a bunch of stuff I wanted to get ready, planning for the tour, but I was just totally knocked out.
Worst timing, man.
Dude, it was really bad. I would walk out of the bedroom, like in my robe and whatever.
And it lasted a very long time.
And Watkins was just sitting there in the kitchen, and he's like waiting for me to help him plan stuff out and send some emails and stuff. I mean, he's doing his own thing, but I walk out and I'm like, I can't, man. I can't do it. I gotta go to sleep. And I had just woken up, and I would walk around the house like a zombie for like 45 minutes or an hour and a half, pretending to do things, but really not getting anything done. And then I would go right back to sleep. It was really, really bad. I felt like I was gonna die. In prepping for the lectures, usually I don't want to do too much soapboxing, right? I don't want to stand up there and talk about philosophy and blah, blah, blah. But I like to see if I can put one message in there very clearly. And this time around, I've been doing a lot of thinking about disclaimers for the past couple of years. Oftentimes, when I bring up the topic of disclaimers to people, one of the many responses is, but if they know that it's not true, if they know that it's a deception, if they know that it's not real, then they won't enjoy it, or they won't enjoy it as much. And I think that is true in some level.
But we debunked it all the way across America. I
think in general, if your illusion is strong enough, then that is totally bunk. And the way that we prove that is I actually got I was at Banachek's surprise birthday party, and actually Bizarro and the Shocker, right, were running this virtual reality game for people. It was so cool. They had a plank on the ground, this piece of wood on the ground, and you walked out onto the wood with this VR headset on, and you were 100 stories up in this building, just looking down at nothing except a plank of wood that was leading straight up from the building. So they were running this game, and really, when you were on top of that piece of wood, walking out on that plank, you felt like you were 100 stories up. It was scary. It was really scary. So
I remember whenever you called me up describing that and talking about applying that to this argument. I remember when you called me up and thought of that.
Yeah, and I want you to talk about your first experience in a second, because it was much worse than you thought it would be.
Yes.
I remember you saying that.
Yes.
So what I ended up doing was ordering one of these things because I thought it was a really good metaphor for this particular argument. You have this thing, and you put it on your head, and you know that what you're experiencing is fake. You know that it's an illusion. You know it's fake. But you cannot help but feel like it's real.
Yep.
And I think the same thing applies to a magic show or a mentalism show or whatever. If they are aware that it's fake, that will not prevent them in any way from experiencing what it's like to be in a room with a psychic or a sorcerer or a body language reader or whatever. They can be there and enjoy that. They will suspend their own disbelief so long as the illusion is strong enough. And that's not that they're suspending disbelief willingly. They signal to you that they're willing to suspend disbelief by walking into the show.
The plank experience.
So I ordered this VR headset that I was introduced to by Bizarro and Shocker, and it's called the Oculus Quest. And I ordered one, and we got it in the house, and we ran everybody through it. And Watkins did it, I did it, Billy did it, Jorge did it. One that I found particularly entertaining was your wife.
Yes, she's going on there, she's doing just fine. Then she says, I wonder what would happen if I jumped off the side. And I'm sitting over there, everybody's kind of far away from her, and she actually just decides to jump off of the side with the VR helmet on, and a cat right there.
I feel like that will like actually give me a panic attack if I jump. What if I jump?
Yeah, jumps on top of the cat and falls and hurts herself.
Dude, she took a nosedive, man.
I don't understand.
It's like she wanted to dive head first down into that world.
I can only imagine what it felt like, and what it looked like inside that machine at that moment. You know, just for that period of second where she actually was falling. God, man.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty
nightmare.
funny. That right there is the moment that we decided, oh, we're gonna start spotting people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna walk right next to them as they do this. Turns out that wasn't good enough. We'll talk about that later on.
Yeah.
Wait, where is it? Okay, I'm on it. Me? Okay, I can't do it. I can't. I'm freaking out, man.
Okay, on our way to our first lecture at the Millennium Fandom Bar, downtown Las Vegas. Let's go. So we did our first lecture, and the first lecture was in Las Vegas. We did it for free as sort of a warm-up because you'd never lectured before, and I mean we had an okay turnout. We had we didn't know whether it was going to be really, really small or really, really big because the Society of American Magicians convention was in town. So we did it through Elliot Hitchcock and his Las Vegas Magic Events group, and we did it at the Millennium Fandom Bar next door in their art space.
What's going to happen is I'm now going to introduce to you the two celebrities or mentalist kind of guys. Hi, welcome. And they are going to further this, fill you in on what we're about to experience. Okay? Enough of my jabbering. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for coming out tonight. You guys look like a great group. Let's do it. Okay? So without further ado, Ken Excel and his partner Watkins. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you guys so much for coming. This is a nice, beautiful turnout.
But it was a really, really cool bar because they had all this stuff of like, just all kinds of nerd stuff, you know, like movie prop type things, science fiction stuff, video game stuff all over the place. And they had this big room in the back that we could set up to do a lecture. And we did it for free, like he said, so.
Yeah.
A couple of non-magicians showed up too. A couple of people just kind of wandered in.
Tell them about your guy there, man.
Well, back at the Wonderground, whenever I was performing my little close-up set, I guess I really impressed this elderly gentleman who I gave him my business card because he seemed to he really liked the magic, he liked the performance. And then he started texting me all this crazy stuff about some book he wrote and that he wants to come to the lecture because I told him about the lecture because I'm thinking he's a magician. He was at the Wonderground, you know? And then he shows up and I don't think he knew anything about magic, and he brought some young kid with him that he said was his nephew and who also did not know anything about magic. And that was kind of strange, especially because while we're doing an explanation of something, he's still trying to test our psychic powers. Like throughout the whole thing, while we're giving the explanation.
That was so nuts.
But because of all that, and having those non-magicians there that didn't know what was going on, I learned a valuable lesson about lecturing on my first lecture, because at first I think I was speaking way over everybody's head and talking about all this really, really complex stuff. I learned how to reel it back and start keeping it simple, making sure everybody in the audience knows exactly what they understand what's going on before I move on and stuff. And I think ever since that first lecture, I think I was doing pretty good. Like that first one was the only one that I was like, I definitely needed to rework my approach.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I took away from the first one.
And it's not necessarily that we're talking that it's super complicated what he was talking about, but I think what you were doing was talking on a level which assumes knowledge of all of the steps up to that level. And so you know, for instance, you would do a center tear and then assume that the center tear was known and that people maybe even knew where the piece was or something like that.
Yes,
at any given
right.
time. And then people kind of tune out.
And well, the elderly gentleman that came, he actually raised his hand and said, "What's a center tear?" Hey guys, just wanted to share with you a little tutorial on how to do the center tear. So let's say that you asked a participant to think of a name, and then he handed them a folded up piece of paper like this. It's folded into quarters, and then you ask them to think of the name and write it down on the billet. So let's say they thought of the name Bob. If you write B-O-B right there, they fold it up into quarters. If you take it back from them at that point, and you hold it to where the folded edges are right here, and then you rip it up just like this, just like that, and then you secretly steal this piece right there and hand them this piece, look at what you get. If you unfold that piece later on, you'll be able to read the information that they wrote down. Now, if you want to find out great methods on how to read this information and reveal it to your participant, tune in later and I'll explain how to do that. But for right now, hopefully you'll get something out of that.